It's Cammie, right?
That's right.
There we go.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, Cammie, would you say your full name for the record, please?
I don't know if it's morning or afternoon. My name is Cammie Maturin. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and the fellow committee members. My name is Cammie Maturin. I'm president and co-founder of the Hope Foundation. I want to start by expressing my unwavering support of Senate Bill 139 without amendments and the other bills that are part of the connective fabric that makes penal reform purposeful and meaningful in this legislative session. While I believe Senate Bill 139 without amendments leaves a lot to be desired and realized in terms of broader reform measures, I think the task force did an awesome job in creating a bipartisan starting point that challenges us, but not pushes beyond the point of being unable to pass a bill as is. We read and hear a lot about how these proposals would release a number of violent offenders. I take personal offense to this sort of coded fundamental attribution error, which seeks to confuse and distort the truth about a certain race and or class of people. If this unbridled distortion isn't properly addressed, we risk missing out on the timely opportunity to put an end to the status quo in Louisiana, especially where criminal justice is concerned. How do we, as taxpayers and lawmakers, even consider political rhetoric that is completely baseless? The district attorneys, sheriffs, and some legislators are quick to reject the idea of giving consideration to some violent offenders. However, many of them have never stepped foot inside of Angola, any other state facility, or reviewed an offender's prison record. So how are they calling these men and women violent after having served decades in prison and completing multiple rehabilitation programs? If this false narrative continues to shape our laws and policies, it's pointless to reinvest any resources into a system where the people are inherently violent and incapable of change. What would be the point of reinvesting over $150 million on incorrigible people? If we accept the district attorney's false narrative in any respect, which we already know we did, with the amendments, which is also including making unethical promises to victims that certain offenders will never be released, and running an illegal campaign to sponsor and create self-serving laws to keep those promises, then we waste taxpayers' dollars on reforming the system, rehabilitating offenders we never intend to release, pardon and parole cost, and the millions spent on offender medical and health care. If the district attorneys, sheriffs, and some legislators believe once a person has committed a crime, rather violent or nonviolent, that person is a criminal for life, then us being here today is also a gross waste of taxpayers' dollars. However, the unpoliticized truth is people aren't inherently violent because they may have committed a violent act. We are not here to ask this legislator to pass bills that would give parole consideration to violent offense statutes, but rather rehabilitated men and women who may have been charged and convicted on a violent offense statute. I think there's enough proof around the world, in this state, and more importantly in this room, that people can and do change. So as president of the Hope Foundation, a survivor, an educator, a mother, and a taxpayer of the state of Louisiana, I ask this committee to reject the false narratives being propagated. As president of the Hope Foundation, my committee members have asked me to let everyone know that the victim organizations that come here today do not represent all the victims in the state of Louisiana. The Hope Foundation and its 400 members are not only multicultural, but many are survivors of violent crimes and have moved past the retribution mentality and found healing, forgiveness, and support for Senate Bill 139 as is, and want real change for citizens serving long sentences. The public is not invited was not invited in the process, and we are not at the table, which we should be. We are paying the taxes and bills for housing rehabilitated offenders. Mr. Chairman, we ask for clarification on all amendments, even as you have ran through them without us understanding. The amendments mean, for us that don't know, the amendments mean, are you saying the minutes mean that some of this will be taken out the bill and not be considered? Second, the 3050 deals with money. We can't afford to continue to house citizens until they die. Our secretary has said that. 2045 we can use under the criminal menopause. Criminal menopause says at 45 years old, at a certain age, people are less likely to reoffend. Louisiana is the only state that mandates a life without parole for second-degree murder. We are the only state that mandates a life without parole sentence for a non-capital crime. The average sentence for second-degree murder across the nation is 17 years. Parole consideration after 30 years for second-degree murder would put us in line with other states in the nation. Texas punishes second-degree murder at 5 to 99 with parole after 30. Mr. White mentioned something about victims. I know, and many of our members know what it's like to be a victim of a violent crime. I shouldn't be sitting here with you. I should have a headstone as I was hung by my own belt. I sit here and don't have any harsh feelings and can't pull up to the table and ask you not to let this man out as he's never served a day in jail. Why are only those who are eligible, who y'all have in this bill, that were sentenced before 1980 eligible for consideration? I understand at their time of sentencing there was a consideration for parole, so why not make it across the board for second degree? And we, as citizens, should have received a copy of these amendments so we would have been prepared, because a lot of these green cards would turn to red after these amendments. As many of my members as our foundation member put green card as is, but we surely don't support these amendments that we were not brought to the table to weigh in on how we felt on those amendments.
Thank you, Cammie.